Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, we dive into the Red Raider two-pronged attack from Saturday in Waco. Tote the rock, kill the quarterback. Next on Locked On Texas Tech.
If you see me in the wilderness fighting a bear, help me! Help the bear!
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right.
Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to see you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. And thanks as always to those making us their first listen on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to kick off another week with you, man. Now with a win in the rear view on the road. There was no help to be found for the Bear as the Red Raiders just continued to pile on. Hope you caught our reaction show yesterday, or if you haven't, dial it up whenever you like. Today we'll get into a few things further, somewhat in a similar realm. Of course, back to the ground game and how it came to be. Career high 31 carries for Taj Brooks. Also want to get actually to some tight end impact that you might have thought the odds were kind of long on with Mason Tharp being banged up, but we saw it in a big way. But Chris, as always, you know, good play if you call it from the sidelines. On three, boys, kill the quarterback. As big of a headline, I think, really as there was whenever it comes to that fight with the Bear, man. You were in hot pursuit all night long, and you got home as often, really, as I can remember in a long while.
I started seeing this this stuff after the game, you know, help the Bear, you know, and all these things, and I'm like, what is going on? And then you that was kind of their rallying cry all week, you know, and coaches or players use these things throughout a season, man. Whatever can get you worked up or get you motivated, and when it works like it did Saturday, you're like, oh man. Inject it right into my veins. When it doesn't work, it's like, hey man, we got to stop this corny stuff. We got to get away from this kind of stuff. You know, I mean, right? I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. But I thought this was these next couple of games, and including the one last week, these should be easy to get motivated for based on kind of how it's gone against these two programs. But the Baylor game, it was an embarrassment last year, and they would be the first one to tell you that. I mean, like when we started talking about when Tim DeRuyter says the thing that I was most disappointed with is that our will was broken in the fourth quarter last year, because that was a pretty close game last year, as poorly as you'd played till the end of the third quarter. And there was a point in that game where you throw a touchdown pass to J.J. Sparkman, and the DB just takes it away from him, and then it's an interception and a touchback. Otherwise, that game is going to be a 24-all game at that point. And then I think Baylor goes off to not only get the touchback, but then they score 21 points and, you know, in the fourth quarter to your none, and it ended up being a blowout. And so, yeah, you this was an easy one to get up for. Not only the road game, but the opponent, and then all the staff members and everything like that. But yeah, help the Bear. I love that what they said. I mean, that's greatness, because that really sums it up, man. You see me in the wilderness and you see a bear walking up, go help that bear.
Put it on a T-shirt.
Hey man, I love it. And now go help the Wildcat, I guess is now what we need to do, you know. So
there wasn't a whole lot of bite from any Bear in green and yellow. The only bite we were seeing led by, but he had some company. We touched on some of these guys yesterday, but you may have seen it by now. Now a Reese's Senior Bowl Player of the Week in Steve Linton, who led the way. But man, 6 sacks to the credit of the Texas Tech defense, and obviously a lot more impact just beyond those 6 that they got to. But like I said a moment ago, dude, I don't remember many similar nights to this in quite some time. You've had some prolific pass rushers on campus in your time, going back several decades. But this is one of the bigger nights as far as the pile up, stacking them 10 high kind of thing is concerned.
I loved the I'm going to get to Linton in a second, but I loved the sack with Pierre and Miles Cole, because they basically are like, we don't know who to give it to, so each of you get half, because they just they arrived at the same time and just like they just sandwiched old Blake Shapen. But this is the Steve Linton that we had been waiting to see, and I know that Joey said it after the game. What wasn't real sure, and he told me after the game as well, but what wasn't sure he was going to even play or at what level he was going to play. That's what's most impressive about this deal. He did a lot of work in the pool there at the hotel, according to Coach McGuire, on the day before the game, the morning of the game, just trying to get his kind of, I'm gathering an ankle or knee or something, but just so he wasn't even quite right. But this was the coming out party that you've been waiting to see from him, and it was fun to watch because he was just he slipped on occasion, whether it be footing or he kind of takes just a bit of a wide angle at times previous, and he's just kind of right there but not getting home. Well, he got home a bunch the other night. He affected the game to where that offensive line was, because he bull rushed, he used his quickness on some moves. I mean, he just ran through folks, and it was a lot of fun to watch and knocking it loose. What I was not expecting though is the Charles Esters coming out party.
Yeah,
this is because this when you start sprinkling in some of these ingredients to where it's not necessarily some of your normal guys, as long as you can be consistent with it, that's when it starts to get really fun because you start increasing the amount of playmakers and all that. That's what's a lot of fun. Or Miles Cole doing so much, on one side that we have to give so much attention, and so Linton or Esters or whoever, and then vice versa. You can't double or chip a guy, and so. But other guys are making you pay for it if you do decide to do that, or then you have to stop doing it, and then you can just rush 4 and get home. But yeah, up front, it was a lot of fun, man. And I think Baylor's offensive line struggled as much as yours did last year.
Yeah, and that's always a great place to start a football game, controlling the defensive trenches. You're not going to find anything that's, well, I referred to regarding a rushing game really yesterday, but put sacking the quarterback right there with it. Anything that'll demoralize a crowd or demoralize a team, like doing that will. And we saw that in spades on Saturday night. Would love to see it again. I referenced it also yesterday. It's kind of fun. I mentioned number 11 and Esters and thinking he's one of those guys, just like we maybe have already done with Dylan Spencer or some of these other freshmen, where you have to pull up the roster and say, all right, who's number whatever? Because I can't ignore this dude. He continues to be on my television screen like every other snap. So I hope to see that continue. And you kind of alluded to it there, but I wanted to ask also before we leave the pass rush conversation, how did it actually come together? Was it just a lot of this guy is whipping this guy's tail individually? A lot of great effort. Was Tim DeRuyter dialing up something differently? Is it a healthier group? What would you really kind of pick is why it did actually click?
It is healthier, okay, because I think Duda Banks was some extra juice, and so when it's healthier, you allow for more fresh reps. I mean, you can rest guys, so when they actually are in there, they can play harder at a higher level. Whereas when you keep guys in there, they just kind of wear down as the game goes along. But you're able to kind of constantly rotate. I do think he did dial up a few things. I mean, you saw Rabbit, with a couple of safety blitzes at times. I think he sent pressure from different things, trying to confuse Baylor. I think at times they did rush just 4, and I think it was just, I want it more than you do, because ultimately you don't want to have to dial up a ton of different pressures. You want to be able to just rush 4, because then you've got the offense right where you want them, because they're like, our group up front's doing it. We can outnumber you on the back end. Good luck, But Tim does a really good job of confusing or changing what he does on a week-to-week basis. And I think you never want to give quarterbacks, if you think, hey, I watched film all week and I think I'm going to get this look, we're going to tweak it. And so you may think that you know what you're going to get. However, we've adjusted. And so that game goes on all throughout the season. And so I think that, some of that safety blitz stuff we've seen it sprinkled in a little bit, but they called that a few times. I think it caused some problems as well, as Rabbit almost got home a few times as well. But anyway, I think that being healthier and then sometimes guys just kind of get better. like the Dylan Spencers being, entered into the equation, or Bryce Ramirez maybe having to move a position, it creates opportunities for others, or these freshmen are showing up. And so these like redshirt freshmen or sophomores are like, I better step it up. There's some competition that's created. If I want to earn more playing time, I better, because these freshmen are coming now. And I think that's the fun part that you're kind of seeing it. It's that internal competition. It's like elevated everybody. Rising tide raises all boats, right?
Aaron Hunt, Monte Rager, Brandon Sharp, Dixon Williams on one of the best teams ever. There's a lineage, boys, and anybody is free to step up and be the next in line. I hope we see this continue, because that gets a team going, and like I said, demoralizes. And I mean that specifically, just like that ground and pound offensively we'll get to in a moment, demoralizes the other sideline. And I think we saw a lot of that on Saturday. Let's pivot, Chris, to another bullet in the Red Raiders' gun from Saturday night. First, today's episode brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company, changing the non-alcoholic beer game one can at a time, and it's time for your game changer of the week. This week, it's a repeat offender. Another appearance for number 28, Taj Brooks, who goes for 170 and a touchdown on a man-sized 31 carries, dragging Baylor up and down the field in a 39-14 win for the Red Raiders Saturday in Waco. And just like Taj Brooks, Athletic Brewing Company is changing the non-alcoholic beer game with, get this, non-alcoholic beer that tastes good. Great tasting, award-winning, and you're going to find more than 50 styles at athleticbrewing.com. But what you're never going to find, a hangover with Athletic Brewing Company. Change the game by finding Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic beer at a store near you or online at athleticbrewing.com. And right now, first-time customers can get 15% off your first online order by using the code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKED ON for 15% off your first online order. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply at Athletic Brewing Company and athleticbrewing.com. Fit for all times. Let's pivot, Chris, to another bullet in the Red Raiders' gun from Saturday night. And I got to say, this was kind of unexpected from my perspective. Seemed like sort of a long shot, because it was only recently we felt a significant tight end impact within a game. But that came courtesy of Mason Tharp, who has been banged up along the way. Well, further down that injury path now, unfortunately. And so you're thinking, all right, well, the odds have to decrease that you're likely to see some tight end impact here against Baylor. But no, it was Baylor on Baylor violence, Baylor on Baylor smoke in a way that I didn't anticipate. Expert analysis, I guess. Big swing and a whiff by me last week, as the tight end makes a huge impact in the end zone twice, man. And I didn't see it coming. So another question here. How did this come to be where eventually not only did they find him, but, man, he had some space to roam and, of course, relied on some of his individual talent as well to make one of those plays with the great catch. So it was nice to see. But how'd they make it happen?
Yeah, 2 touchdowns on 2 catches. I like the ratio. I mean, that's solid work there. And I think I think the irony is just, I love it. The Baylor on Baylor crime there. That is like, I mean, I think the line in the social media post was, these are the Baylor touchdowns that I really like to see. And yes. The first one is kind of it's a great throw by Behren, and I think he puts it to where only his guy can get it. It's a great catch. I mean, It's a big league play on both ends of it. You throw it to leverage right there to where it's just like he's got to go up and get it right there on the edge of the end zone. Makes a semi-contested catch. The other one, though, was an easy play, and it's totally set up by that O-line in the run game and what they had done all game long, because they showed them – this is Zach Kitley kind of drawing it up and setting up things. They showed them a look, and then kind of you play action, and then Kupp is he's just standing there wide open, and then easy jaunt down the sideline right there. But and Baylor, to his credit, he's playing through some things as well. He missed a week, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. He's not been totally healthy, still not necessarily, but this is was a big time recruit. I think he's kind of battled injuries throughout his career, but I think when he's right, man, because and the irony here, the irony is that how many road wins now does Joey McGuire have? True road wins, 2.
Yeah,
You
true.
know,
Okay, sorry. I graduated from Littlefield.
You know what the common theme is? Baylor Cup touchdown receptions in both of those. Because he caught the go-ahead last year, and I thought his at Iowa State to win it 14-10, and I thought this game he he doesn't necessarily win it. You won in a blowout, but I mean he really set the tone. I thought with a couple of TDs when you did need them, and I just thought, yeah, that's not lost on me either. So 2 road wins. Hey man, as we said, when you want to win, throw it to the tight end.
Get that message to Zach Kitley. Make sure that next time out on the road, you dial up the Baylor Cup touchdown play, because that seems like a great call anytime. Chris, before we leave that particular play, I wanted to talk about the ball that Behren put up for Cup to go get, because I think sometimes it takes a specific quarterback to have that type of trust or to be willing maybe to take that kind of risk. But I think also, I've seen this in the YouTube comments specifically, as a matter of fact, comparing and contrasting what Tyler Shuck was as a quarterback or what Behren Morton could be as a quarterback. And there are questions out there I've seen from viewers about Morton's willingness or perceived willingness, more willingness to throw up some of those and maybe take some of those risks, to ask a player, hey, go get it, make a play on the ball. It could be fan fiction or fantasy. I don't know, but we saw that happen, particularly with this Baylor Cup touchdown. How do you feel about that? Is there any more risk-taking nature or maybe a chance on a 50-50 ball that Behren might be interested in than, say, a guy like Shuck or maybe just another quarterback in general?
Well, I think he maybe will take a few more chances. I mean, that kind of goes with the gunslinger mentality, right? And I think on Saturday you saw the good and the bad, because there was another time where he threw it up and it was picked. And you're thinking, like, you just get a fumble, you're kind of trying to turn the momentum and take a shot, and like, okay, let's go for the dagger here, and he just kind of lofts it up there, and like Baylor interception, and then all of a sudden the momentum is just dramatically turned. But he will give his guys some chances. I mean, that's just will ultimately, and I think you'll see him do this a bit more as the weeks go along and he gets healthier. I think that these next couple of weeks. But he's going to be a guy that really could use the bye week, when that does get here with that shoulder. But I think on the one that got picked, it was slightly underthrown. The one he throws to Baylor was just a dime. I mean, it just was. I think, but I do, and the one to Coy Aiken.
Yep.
Like, I'm standing there next to Antonio Huffman on the sideline, who played DB in this program. I'm like, how do you stop the back shoulder fade like that? Like if the QB and the wideout are on the same page as far as the timing goes, and you created because if you watched what Kitley did on that play, it's like everybody's bunched up, okay, on the line of scrimmage, and then it's like right before you go to snap, it's like 4 guys run out to one side, and you're an empty back set, and then you've got a one-on-one situation, which is what you're trying to create. But in a one-on-one scenario, when Behren and Coy Aiken in this case were like on the same page, you can't defend it. You just, I don't care how good you are, because you just simply can't defend it. And those chances and those shots are fun to take. That was scheme and great throw and a great catch. But yeah, Behren, I think it's fair to suggest that you just, if you understand that, you have to be willing to live with some of the results here. And like you saw, it didn't burn you the other day, but I mean, he's gonna throw some of those up and let his wideouts go get it. However, if it's slightly off, it's a 50-50 ball for a reason, and right. The other proposition got you one time.
I know the one to Fungi came to be in a little bit different way compared to these, but somewhat similarly in a coin flip. Hey, here's a DB, here's a wide receiver. Let's see who makes a play on the ball. But that's now 3 we've seen in just a couple of weeks that thankfully went the way of the good guys, but kind of interesting to see them pile up a little bit. And some of these that you look at, some of these pass catchers you look at individually, some of the measurables and what they can offer just as far as individual talent is concerned, I don't know, may take your chances with some of them in 50-50 situations as the week goes on. But yes, didn't burn you when it went bad this time around, but it could in subsequent weeks. And as you said, I think it's a great way to segue into the next portion of the conversation before we're out of here, because this is also something that didn't burn you on Saturday, but wondering how long it could be sustained, Chris. We're talking about Taj Brooks. First, today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors, and they've got everything you need to maintain your vehicle and keep that ride or die ride alive, or elevate your car's game to the next level of performance. Whatever you're looking for, they got it at the right prices. Superchargers, roof racks, LED headlights, exhaust kits, and accessories of all kinds to fit your style, whether it's speed, power, or design you're into. eBay Motors has got you covered with over 122 million parts for your 2, 3, or 4-wheeled baby. Just head over to ebay.com/motors, where you're going to always find exactly what you're looking for, and at no risk because of eBay's guaranteed fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit just right every time, or it's your money back, keeping you burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to keep your ride or die ride on the road and moving your life forward at ebay.com/motors. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. We're talking about Taj Brooks, who I think, aside from some defensive mentions, has to be your game MVP. Career high 31 carries, and that's really the number to focus in on here for this portion of the conversation, Chris. He goes for 170. Obviously, they're on the ground. We had 2 100-yard rushers a week ago with Brooks and Valdez. Valdez got a handful of touches, but we did not see anywhere near the impact from a running back number 2, whether it's Valdez or someone else. We didn't see it this time around. So maybe you have days like this and maybe some more to come. I don't think it's the ideal scenario necessarily, but why did this come to be that we really did see it so lopsided, you think, at the end of the night with Brooks hitting that career high number?
Yeah, this is just going to be one of these scenarios where Taj is just so much better than Cameron or Nehemiah or really anybody else at this point, which is good, but it's also bad. And I think, you would, because in the last couple of years, you've kind of had this 1-2 punch to where if you kind of had this Roderick that was a similar level of experience and ability and all these things, boy, it's, you really like the way you're doing things now to be able to like have this 2-headed monster. You're going to have to protect yourself from just overusing Taj. I feel like, because I think at some point it just, but having said that, it's hard not to have him in the game. He wants to be in there, but he also, I think, gets tired too. I don't think that's why he fumbled or anything, but I mean, he gets worn down a little bit. And again, I go back to all the things that are happening to him that he's involved with when he's not carrying the ball that I think add up as well. And I've seen, I saw him in Morgantown lay out for a blitz pickup. And I mean, he tried to deliver the blow, but the blow got delivered to him, and it took him a second to kind of shake it off. I mean, like it was a big time collision. And those are just the things I think the general folk doesn't think about or care about or see. I get it. Yeah. But you've got to continue to be disciplined enough to kind of get Cameron in there and develop him and get him involved, just because I think it helps Taj in the long run. And it helps your program in the long run. I think, and it's hard, trust me, and that's Kenny Perry trying to because the easy thing is just say 28, keep going out there. But at some point he's worn down, he's tired. I just think as the more that this happens, and I think the way that game played out the other night, I think you were trying to put it on ice and you were trying to let him, get you to the end. And he ended up getting a touchdown and all those things and the 2-point conversion. But I think it's self-discipline right now, trying to get Cameron or whoever and Nehemiah in there and all that. But I mean, there's a gap. There's just no doubt. But it's also like you've got to protect him from, himself, if that makes sense too.
Yeah, no question. And you got a long way to go as far as being being able to rely on everybody beyond Taj Brooks. And hey, who you're staring down the barrel of facing this week, a lot tougher than 12 of 12 as far as the rush defense is concerned. That's what you saw in Waco, statistically the worst ranked rush defense in the Big 12 conference. You made it look that way again. Kansas State is in a different category. So this is going to be a really interesting week, Chris, as we kind of see a seesaw, or at least maybe some evolution in the way you're going to approach things offensively. And obviously now with these big statistical weeks, piling up for Taj Brooks. I mean, I don't know why it wouldn't be focus number one for any opposing defense, but man, I am curious in the days to come and how we'll anticipate Behren Morton being used against a K-State type defense. But it's a much, much different challenge and experience, right, that you're going to get in just 7 days time between what you saw in Waco and what you'll see against K-State.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Kansas State a lot as the week goes along. But yeah, this is going to be, because I think one of the things you saw in the last 2 weeks, we have heard this before these games, and I think other people have said these things too. There was a common theme between Houston and Baylor in that they just weren't real good tackling teams. A lot of missed tackles, and what is Taj really good at? I mean, that's kind of his style. He just kind of keeps it going, keeps running through people and all that. He's not going to juke you and go or anything. But, I mean, he just kind of is the tough yardage that a 3-yard gain ends up being an 8-yard gain and all that, just because of those two teams. Kansas State won't be that way. They are a very good tackling team. They are typically very sound in everything that they do. And we'll get into kind of some of what's going on with them as the week goes along. But that's the one thing that I would say that, you won't get the benefit of necessarily coming into the game is, like, you knew the two previous opponents who you've blown both of them out, won by 20 plus in both games, that they just weren't very good tackling teams, and Kansas State won't be that way.
Yeah, either way for this week, feels good to have, let's see, road win, check. Conference win, check. Ran the damn ball, check. Killed the quarterback, triple check. And if you put that together again, you'll have a chance every week, right? I know it's much easier said than done, but yeah, tote that rock and kill the other guy's guy. And you're going to have a chance.
It's funny because if you could, I always ask coaches these questions because I don't know what the right answer is, but if you could, like, in a dream scenario, if you could, like, build your team and have one position group that could just dominate a game, I always wonder if you had to pick, because, I don't even think you would say, I want my quarterback to position to dominate the game or whatever, because if you don't have other components, it's always comes down to one of those lines.
Yep.
And I don't know if you'd rather have a dominant O-line or a dominant D-line, because you can control a game when one of those sides of the ball, it really is running the show. And I thought, I don't want to say you dominated Saturday or whatever on either side, but it was close, especially for that D-line. But it's kind of a fascinating question on what you'd go all in on, because, I mean, the answer is yes. I'd love to have them both. Both. It's hard to pick one over the other, but yeah, we saw a lot of trench work, man, and it was hopefully it continues.
Yeah, man. Well, you're going to need it this week. It'll be a black and blue kind of fist fight with the Purple Wildcats coming to town. And we will mention special teams a time or two this week. And I imagine in a recap as well next Sunday. But time will tell. Chris, enjoyed the time as always with you, man. Appreciate the insight. Always fun to be talking a Red Raider win, especially in the league on the road. And we'll be back around coming up tomorrow to do it again, man. See you then.
Keep hope alive, people. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you miss not a thing. For Chris, I'm Casey. We'll see you for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.